starts. Great. Okay,
Okay.
now pause it.
Let me see how to do that. Recording, there's the. Okay, I'm going to call to order the May 1st, 2025 meeting of the Scio Township Environmental Sustainability Task Force. And I'll first announce that Jan will not be here tonight and I'll be running it. So if things get a little screwy, just kick me back in line and we'll keep it going. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Bob. You're in charge tonight, huh?
I don't want to say that. I'm leading the meeting. But
Good.
yes,
Good.
yes.
Jan, okay?
Jan's okay. Her mom died and she's with family at a family gathering tonight. And so is tied up. But it was expected. I don't know if you know the details, but her mom was
Yeah, a little bit, but yeah.
terminally ill and she was nearing the end for a while now, but it happened.
Okay.
Okay, called the meeting to order, and next on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to add or delete or modify on the published agenda?
No time.
Well, then let's have a voice vote to adopt the agenda. Everybody in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Not hearing any opposed, it's adopted. There's been several communications and correspondence. Some of them were in our packet. There were others that were just emailed to the whole group here fairly short time ago. Pam Boyd sent some information in on composting that we ought to consider anyway. And Charlie, I guess that would be you and Jeff and Karen. I think I'm no longer in the subgroup with what is it, materials, waste, and the circular economy, because Jan had me move over to water. So we'll say it's just you three. So if you could take a look at what was sent to you both earlier this week, sent to all of us. And I know you read it, at least partly. And then what Pam sent tonight. Pam, do you want to say anything about it while we're all here?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm happy to do that. I'm a huge fan of Joel Salatin, and I happened to catch a short of him talking on Joe Rogan. I don't really follow Joe Rogan, but this happened to come across my Instagram. And he talked about a program in Belgium where the community wanted to lower the amount of tonnage of food scraps to the dump. And so what they did is they set up a program where they gave residents chickens. And it was a huge success, and it lowered a significant amount of tonnage of food scraps to the dump, to their however their system works. I don't quite know how.
Okay.
And so that got me thinking that John Reiser 2.5 years ago
Yes, the chicken man
said he wanted to bring chickens to Scio Township because Ann Arbor has chickens, and so, but there hasn't been there's been enough upheaval, and there still is upheaval in our Scio Township government, that we really need an impetus, an event that could get this on the books. We already know, I've already got 2 neighbors in my neighborhood. Of course, we have acres, an acre, but the rule is you have to have 2 acres in Scio Township in order to have chickens.
Okay,
But in the city of Ann Arbor, you can have your city lot and you can have chickens. You just can't have a rooster.
oh,
And so what Belgium did is they perfected the teaching, people to come and check or check on your chickens, make sure you're doing it the right way. So it was an educational event. And so I've sent you 2 articles and the short Joe Salatin video where he's doing the talking. And I wanted to present that to you guys as an option because I think ESTF would be the right group to bring that in front of the Planning Commission and the board. And that's my little speech.
thank you, Pam.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, other correspondence? Or was there any comments on it that anybody wanted to make right now, or, we can,
I
Wondering
wanna,
what people's feelings are and how many people have chickens now. I mean, driving around, I don't think I've seen a lot, but maybe some. I'm just kind of curious what people have observed.
I know my neighbor does, but she has a farm, so.
Yeah, but as a way of getting rid of food waste, this is something that maybe with some advocation of it.
Mhm.
chickens, Janine?
Uh, yeah, it's in my master plan for my backyard once I retire. But I think you're onto something, and I was going to ask Charlie in terms of like how, if the connection is to encourage people to have chickens to support reduction of food waste, there are also lots of other ways to encourage and support reduction of food waste, right, in our yards or just as a township. So I think I love the idea. I love the idea. So
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I like it too, Pam. I appreciate that you brought it up here and, little, new chicken layers, are not expensive and it possibly is a thing that could be funded by the township. Not everybody's gonna do it, of course, and probably not that many, but, if the people who do get birds, laying birds, put on note that they're open to having their neighbors come with food scraps, those birds eat them right up. They really do that. Good job of that.
Well, another potential idea is to have, I'm not, here, I'll let you see my face. I'm exhausted from my 20-month-old grandson that I babysit every day. But when I saw this, it's like, oh, maybe I want chickens. But maybe what we have is we have a group, like I could get 5 of my neighbors to say, collect your food scraps and feed them to my chickens. And so that it's more of a community, not, and then you can give the eggs to these neighbors who are also giving the food scraps. There's such a variety of ways that it could be done, because not everybody is going to have the time or the energy or the focus, because
It's not an easy, it's not,
yeah,
it's not labor free.
right.
No. Kind of like
And
having an animal pet, you gotta be around to feed it daily and so on and so forth. But
And protect it.
Let me just,
Exactly.
bring up that I live on 3.5 acres and I wanted to get a couple of hogs because I looked into um, the zoning laws and, the township allows, I forget all that now, but there are allowances for four-legged of certain size and so on and so forth. And chickens, I think chickens are on that list, so there are some zoning
I'll look it up.
specifics about that. We don't have to do it right now, Bob, but
Right.
Right.
Well,
There is-
it's 2 acres to have chickens, to have a couple chickens.
Hmm.
That I know for sure because I specifically asked that question of our previous uh, ordinance officer because I couldn't find it in our documentation. And somewhere I have a copy of that. I'll have to dig it up and I'll send it to you guys. Um, but so I know it's 2 acres, but I know that, like I said, um, I think um, John Reiser would be a perfect person to
To
just,
front this effort.
yeah, because he really wanted that to happen in
I don't know
Siren.
why, but he did.
Mhm.
Yep, yep.
I
So
watched that too.
yeah,
Pam, do you want to tackle John with that idea?
sure.
Go
I'd
ahead.
be
Yeah,
I'd be happy to if that's something that you all want me to do. I don't, I'm just a resident who attends.
Mhm.
I'm not an official member and I don't want to step on any toes.
Oh, I
So
know.
I would like to make sure that Charlie, um, that everybody's on board. So Charlie, if you want to chat with me offline, or if you want to talk to Riser yourself, even better.
I think you brought it up to the right group, Pam.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and why don't we see what we can gin up and we'll talk to.
Well, read the documentation I sent you. Do a little bit
Mhm.
of research. I think that'll answer a lot of questions. I don't think we should reinvent the wheel, and it sounds like they have a well-oiled machine to get it done. And yeah, all right, I'll leave
Okay,
it at that.
So
thank you.
Pam, and Bob, what I suggest, and maybe you, Pam, maybe you, Charlie, or somebody else, but somebody get in touch with John Reiser in the next month and give him, Pam, give him the information that you got, the reel, the tape, whatever, and ask him to come to next month's meeting and talk about it. And we can maybe formulate a
How's
bigger
that
idea.
sound, Charlie? How does that
Yeah, I'll
sound, Charlie?
contact him. In fact, I'll send him Pam's info that she sent us. So he can
That'd be
see what we're
perfect.
talking about, forward that to him too.
Perfect.
Good idea, Tim.
Does anybody know his email address? Is it jriser at blah, blah, blah?
It's
Yes.
in the township
Yeah, it's true. I could look it up.
directory.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, and the other correspondence that was sent to the whole group had to do with burning. Did people see that?
Yep.
Yes.
And I don't know, open burning was the issue, and it was, wood smoke, but it looked like it was more than that. And that was also fireplace burning of wood, I think, not just outdoor burning. Is that how you guys read it too?
Any burning, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't, yes.
I don't remember specifically seeing fireplace. Well, no, I think there was, because it did say something about recreational. So
Well, it said
that would
anybody who
include like
thought,
fire pits and,
yeah.
Yeah, the point is about smoke and,
right.
yeah, makes me feel guilty.
I think that there are emissions regulations in some parts of the country, but I'm not sure that that's here in Scio, like Denver, for one thing, probably California, for fireplace burning, you have to have a certified fireplace or insert that meets a minimum standard. And that standard keeps getting tighter and tighter over the years. But I don't think we have that here. Not that I remember. So I don't know that we could regulate that. And I think they were upset that people were burning out of doors, and the fire department just goes ahead and approves them doing that, but that's because that's how we have it set up for them to do.
Well, in some regards, people consider burning paper waste as a better thing than throwing it into the
Landfill.
yeah, into the landfill and so on. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's a good thing to think about, but I think it's going to take a long time to get around to doing something about it in a township as rural as this is. And I'm sure that there's a lot of
Right.
burning going on, but education is a piece of it. And
Which of our subgroups is it most appropriate for? Janine, is it health? I know that you're listed as being part of that group.
I am. And I think Molly is no longer participating in this task force, if I'm understanding her situation. Anyways,
Okay.
yeah, it feels like this person is sharing this information primarily from a health perspective. So it
Yeah.
seems like and I would just say that, I mean, the township also has a contract with someone who does prescribed managed burns
Mhm.
on our preserved properties. And
Right.
that person who used to oversee Ann Arbor's natural area program, NAP, I'm sure has also a solid base of knowledge and understanding about the environmental and potential health impacts of what his business is there to do. So I'd love it. Like, I think there's a few different points of view and perspective we might want to,
Gather.
take into consideration here.
yeah,
Yeah, because and understand how much of a problem is this, right? Where is it a problem, and how much of a problem is it, or is it, right?
And what can we do about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as somebody who just bought a wood burning stove, I'm not planning to do anything about it because I bought an energy efficient stove. I think what I'm trying to do is make, anyway, so I personally have some issues with just like banning it all. But I totally am open to, like, again, exploring the issues and talking, bringing some points together and digging into it a little further. So happy to take that one on.
I did look into this at one point a couple of years ago. Since I have a remote property in the Upper Peninsula, where we do burn, stuff that we cut away from our cabin and so on. But what I discovered is that the state of Michigan requires every county to have, or I don't know if it's counties or municipalities, every place in the state of Michigan has to have some laws in place.
For what? For what?
burning,
Outdoor burning?
burning.
Right.
We're talking about bonfires, comfort fires, whatever you want to call things outside. What we use in Scio Township is basically the minimum that's allowed. So apparently in Scio Township, we've decided to do the minimum. I also want to point out, if you want to do something stricter than that, and like outright ban burning outside, don't we have to provide an alternative for what to do when trees come down and all that? I mean,
yeah.
We don't have, in Ann Arbor, you can bundle things and have them carried away and mulched and all that. I don't think we have that opportunity here.
I think we do, as part of our contract with the what do you, the refuse pickup? I forget the company's name.
Hmm.
Who is that, Charlie?
No, now that you forgot it, you made me forget it.
Yeah.
Priority
Yeah.
waste.
Thank
Yes,
you,
thank you. I
Rob.
was still stuck on GFL.
Priority.
Yeah, priority now.
So they will take yard waste, I believe. I don't have the contract with them, so
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. So,
However, if you could look into it, Janine, and
Sure.
summarize it for the public, that would be pretty much, that would be a good start anyway.
Yeah, happy to look into it. And like I said, try to gather a few different perspectives on this.
All right. Any other correspondence that people are, want to bring up? Communications? Okay. I'm sorry to rush it, but now we come to the public comment period. And that's the first public comment period. And I don't know if Pam, that was all you wanted to talk about? And, Rob, do you have anything?
That was all I wanted to talk about. Thank you.
Nope, nothing here. All set, thanks.
Okay. Well, then the group updates, the agenda lists that the Michigan Green Communities Challenge was submitted. Are you familiar with that, Kathy? I don't know if you were part of that submission.
she didn't include me this time, but I did last year.
I thought so.
It was that checklist that we all went through last year, I think. And you for each item you go through and say you haven't done anything, or you're beginning, or it's underway, or completed. So she apparently did the checklist and sent it in for progress made in 2024.
And you should also, you have a summary, Kathy, or?
Yeah, let me just tell you about that. Michigan My Healthy Climate Conference took place last week. Chris Cheng and I went to that. It's 2 days in Detroit. It's put on by Eagle. The first half day was just Catalyst Community Workshop, so sort of small group. And it was an overview of Catalyst Community's history and the technical assistance they have available for us. The second half day was, they basically went through the My Healthy Climate Plan. Speakers came up and they have a bunch of pillars for the plan, which are sort of like our subject areas, like what we have with our working groups. So they had people come up and give talks about what the goals were in each of the various areas that they had, and information, how they fit in with the goals, what progress they've made to date with the plan, introduced us to the agencies that dealt with the things within those particular pillars. So it was a lot of information very fast, a little bit hard to get everything in, but it was helpful to understand the background. Second day, there were concurrent sessions, and which were all panel discussions. So for example, I went to one on clean transportation, which had the guy that was the chair of the transportation section of the climate plan, and somebody from not DTE, but Consumers Power, and somebody from an organization, a private organization that worked with them. And they just talked about the status of things, problems, and all that. They did this with a number of issues. So anyway, what's going on, what's needed next, and so on. Overall takeaway, I would say it sounded like they're making good progress on renewable energy in the state and electrification. I mean, a lot yet to do, but that seemed to be some of their stronger areas. I was paying particular attention to transportation. The state's climate action plan is almost entirely focused on electrification of vehicles and getting the charging station infrastructure out there. Not much at all on transit or bike paths and that sort of thing, which is a contrast to what SEMCOG is. SEMCOG emphasizes those other things a little more. But in any case, they feel that they have not made all that much progress on the transportation so far. A big emphasis right now seems to be the cutting food waste. So that's another important thing with the chickens. There's a goal to cut food waste in half by 2030, and that's a kind of a top priority for them. We had Governor Whitmer and Gilchrist spoke to us during the course of the event, and yeah, overall a helpful overview, a little bit overwhelming with all the detail, but yeah, that's my report and summary on that.
You said cut food waste in half by what year?
2030.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, do they have a blueprint for how to get that done? How to, you know, like we do for climate change in general?
I did not go to that session because it was at the same time as the transportation one. However, I'm going to guess that if we go into the My Healthy Climate plan, that it's going to be like our plan in that it's going to talk about some ways to do that. There's a number of organizations out there that are, I know that Jan has mentioned that the Ann Arbor 2030 district is working a lot on that with restaurants, with, I know that Zingerman's has been very active with all that stuff we've talked about with this.
Yeah, I just dropped in there's a Michigan food waste roadmap, which has a whole plan for getting
I'm
to
sure.
50% reduction. Now, whether the plan is really, you know, readily and feasibly implementable is a totally another question, right?
Right.
I have a question. Does anybody know if the recording captures the chat?
I don't think so.
So it's verbal.
What's that,
So I also dropped a link
Tim?
into a link to the
Right.
township's burning rules and regulations, but Kathy, I is assuming that you take some things from chat and put them in the meeting notes. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I can do that. Let me do
Yeah.
that. And
Great.
Great. That's what I wanted to make sure of, whether it automatically went in or not.
yeah.
Okay.
You're pretty good, Janine, at finding those links and finding all that stuff online. Can you, particularly the food waste thing, can you send that link out to all of us?
She did.
It's in the
Just did.
chat.
She is so
All
smart.
you have to do is
Well,
pull
if
up
you
the
can't
chat.
access
Yeah.
it in the chat, I think Kathy's going to throw it in the meeting
I'll
minutes.
put it-
I'm
yeah,
also
put it-
happy to email it to you, Tim.
Well,
But
I
you,
just clicked it, it works.
Okay,
right.
good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be in our minutes.
Mhm.
okay.
Any other comments leading up to the subgroups? I don't know if anybody's here. Tim, are you in the regenerative agriculture local
Food and
foods?
agriculture, yep. Mhm.
Is there anything you want to update on?
Well, yeah, I'll just say that I think it's on May 5th, Sue Shink, who is our senator for, I think all of Scio Township, I'm not sure
Yeah.
about that. All of the township. Sue is holding a listening session on agriculture and food on the 5th of May.
Okay.
It is, let me make sure that it is the 6th of May, and the Ann Arbor Township offices, and I'll be going to that. I'm not sure what the topics are going to be, but I'm interested in all of that, so I'm gonna go, and I'll
Excellent.
report on it.
Excellent. Thank you. I think that Jan is the one that's on energy. unless somebody else present is part. So I'll just, I mean, everyone here know that
Breaking up.
the
Bob.
Yeah, breaking.
geo, yeah, you know,
Breaking up, Bob. Didn't get it.
I think we may have lost you completely, Bob. Oh, there you are.
Well, I turned my video on, hopefully
You sound like a
bad.
piano.
I say it might be mangling your voice, but it's doing it in a humorous way.
Well,
I don't know what to say.
yeah.
Okay, what is next on the agenda anyway?
Yeah, good question.
Natural ecosystems.
Yep. Updating of landscaping ordinance.
Yeah, I don't, I don't remember who's in charge of natural landscape and so on. So we'll say there's no report on that. And what is after that?
Water, and Bob had something apparently on the new bioreserve map. But
Yes, I
we've
do.
lost Bob. Oh, maybe you're back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I turned off my Bluetooth, and sometimes when my Wi-Fi is poor, my internet is poor, the Bluetooth is screws up the audio. Can you hear this? I see Tim, you're cringing.
Well, you cut out for just a moment there, but
Yeah, if you turn your video off, that might help a little bit more.
Well,
Okay,
we'll try.
yep, that's better for now.
Okay, so I know that you brought up a few things. I don't about the natural ecosystem. Oh, I know what Jan was saying about the natural ecosystems. The Planning Commission is taking up landscape ordinance updates. So that's what she was saying there in the agenda.
Okay.
Is that clear? Did that come through to everybody, what I just said?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the Planning Commission is taking that up.
Hmm.
On water,
wait, Bob, do you know anything about that? What's the timeline on that? The lands?
it's just being brought up now, Tim, for us to consider updates to it, and then there'll be public hearings, and then there'll be a planning commission voting on whether to forward it to the Board of Trustees, and then the Board of Trustees will take a look at it. So there's several steps, and it definitely has to involve the public.
Mhm.
Is that clear?
Yep.
I want to make sure I'm coming through clearly. Sorry. Anything else on natural ecosystems? Any other questions? Okay, hearing none on water. What this note is sort of saying, but what I want to say about that is that I just recently became aware that the township has an ordinance called the open ordinance, and it's the if I can get the exact wording, it has to do with it's the overlay for preservation and enhancement of natural features in the township. So what this ordinance says is that the Huron River Watershed Council has bioreserve maps, or a map of the bioreserves that they consider important natural features in the whole Huron River watershed. And that includes us. And so we have tied our, how do I want to say this? It's an overlay district that is tied to their maps. that imposes additional requirements on any underlying zoning districts. So that includes creeks, rivers, streams, wetlands, marshy areas, wooded areas. It also, the open ordinance, the overlay district, it mentions or is tied to the zoning called recreation conservation, RC. So it's a little confusing to me, and I'm looking into it as to exactly how we need to implement that. The Planning Commission hasn't even really been discussing it as an important ordinance, having teeth that we should be paying attention to. And I want to look into how that really should be looked into, how that should be considered. Our planner downplayed the tie-in to the Watershed Council, saying that it was really the conservation, recreation conservation districts that were identified as being part of this overlay. And I'm looking into that. I'll find out if there's anything more to it than what the planner says, and why they would mention the watershed, why it would call out the Watershed Council's bioreserves maps and not want to make use of them. I'm confused. So I don't know that I'm getting the full story yet.
Yeah, good. But
Are you on the LPC, Tim?
Pardon me?
Are you on the LPC?
Yeah, Land Preservation Commission, yes.
Okay, I thought so. And this is really, I would think that bioreserves maps would be something that the LPC would have looked into back at the beginning to determine what lands should be sought for
Yeah, I'm sure Barry Lonick, our consultant to the commission. I'm also on the commission, Bob.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I'm sure that Barry has done that. I would also say that like my good friend Rick Lawson is a watershed planner for the Huron River Watershed Council. Like if you want a quick touch base with him on how he would be encouraging our township to be utilizing these maps or thinking about this, I'm sure he'd be happy.
I've talked to the Watershed Council,
okay,
and by the way, maybe you should be the person from the sounds of it, but I'm the representative from Scio Township to the Watershed Council. So.
Oh, great, good.
That's how I ran into it. Was from the outside.
They didn't have guidance for us on. They didn't have guidance for us on how to incorporate it into township planning. That's interesting.
No, that's not. I didn't ask him about that. I asked him if about the connection between us and the ordinance that already existed, and they're in the process of updating the bioreserves maps right now.
Okay, interesting.
So it wasn't Rick I talked to, but he's probably in charge of the people that I am talking to.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Is there something Tim and I can check in with Barry Lonick about, or the Land Preservation Commission on?
I think that how Barry, if you could find out from Barry what he knows about the open ordinance, that if I could give you the number, it's section 36-347 of Scio Township's ordinances.
36-347.
347.
Yep.
Correct. And how maybe he has some insights into that too. And in the meantime, I'm checking with our planner on getting all the meeting records that she has available from Carlisle Wortman, who's been our planning consultants for years. And what did the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees intend this ordinance to be used for? That's really what I'm after, because if we already have something in place that takes the Watershed Council's bioreserves maps and overlays it on our zoning maps and overlays some requirements on top of those properties, I want to know about it. So that's where I'm headed with it.
Got it.
So I'm not 100% clear on what you're saying, Bob, but the township has ordinances on land use, right? Basically, and
Right.
Huron River Watershed Council has some overlaying maps that they consider importance on
Yep.
water flow, I suppose, is a simple way to put it, right?
What was that last statement?
Water flow, is that kind of the issue?
Not necessarily. It's properties or land that has an impact on the quality of the river. And that includes woodlands, that includes creeks and waterways, and that includes wetlands. So it's not just water, it's things that impact land that impacts the water or has an impact on it, whether
Right.
good or bad.
Okay, so Janine, you're gonna look at that, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you could check with Barry, Janine, that would be great. And
Sure, I'll send them, yeah.
and my real question is, what does he know anything about what the intent was for that ordinance? And if he doesn't, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going back to our planning consultant to find out what they know about what was intended.
Uh-huh.
If
Ordinance says what in general?
Say it again, Tim, I'm sorry.
Not
Tim?
hearing you're talking. We can't hear you.
What I said, Tim, was
Can't hear you, Bob. At any rate, let me just say something quickly about that. The use of chemicals in our township on lawns, people's pieces of grasses that some consider very important. The use of chemicals is definitely a negative for the watershed system. And it's possible that in sometime in the future, we can put limitations on that. Janine, I know you've thought a lot about water issues. Are there any townships that are doing something like that, that are putting out ordinances that limit the amount of whatever chemical it is that is being used for lawn care?
It's a good question. I haven't looked into that specifically in terms of what other townships might be doing. Again, I think I'd probably check in with folks at the Huron River Watershed Council, who the team there that is focused on local policy and just trying to keep track of where townships might be doing things that affect water quality. So,
and I am in
Um,
communication with them,
yep.
Janine.
Yep. So yeah, maybe Bob, that's something you could be asking them about.
Since it's water related, yes, Tim, I
Yeah.
will, I think I should look into what chemical usage regulations should be imposed. And they certainly check the content of certain chemicals in the water when they do their testing, so.
Yeah, they've said a lot in their newsletters and so on about kind of pleading with people to limit the use of chemicals in their lawn care. But
Yes.
I'm wondering if any of the municipalities or townships have done anything about that.
I'll look into it, Tim.
Good.
Pam, you had a comment, Pam?
Yes. So years ago, I guess when our girls were little, my husband would broadcast chemicals on the lawn for the whole lawn. And it took me a while, but I convinced him to just do spot treatment because I argued that most of the lawn, as long when you're working on a healthy lawn, nature does help. And so for the last probably 20 years, he's only done spot treating of things that he wants to get rid of. And it seems like every year it's kind of less and less. And so when I look at how to change a thought process by doing something where you reduce it slowly and say, well, okay, we're not going to tell you you can't do everything, but let's teach you how to spot treat um, to reduce and take it in steps. So I'm just throwing out that example that I use. I convinced John to reduce because I don't like chemicals at all. But anyway, that's my thought. Thank you.
That's a good thought, Pam. And Bob, you might want to look at nationally if, in counties or townships around the country that have more serious water problems, if there are ordinances that limit chemical use on lawns.
Sure.
I specifically saw an article. I couldn't find it again at this point. It was like a year ago, but about, or I heard something on the radio about that kind of thing in Northwest Ohio because of the algal blooms in Lake Erie.
Sure.
So that might be a
And-
good place to start.
And Kathy, take a look in the chat again. Janine put a link
Yep.
from the Huron River
I got that.
Watershed Council
Yep.
on what they recommend. So
Mhm.
thanks, Janine.
Sure.
Yes.
You're so
I'm
cool.
definitely not looking things up while I'm
No,
running
no,
this.
no. That's
What also do septic systems play a role in this too? Inspections of septic systems, aging septic systems. I don't know.
yeah, they do. And I don't know the status of the legislation that was being pursued at the state level around that, but I know there's been some movement. I just don't know if they've made any progress, but I can we should maybe try to keep track of what's happening on that front too.
Yep.
So many issues, so little time.
Yep.
Such amazing volunteer talent we have to take
Yeah.
all this on.
And we do have a lot of resources in the Watershed Council for this. Okay, let's go on to mobility. I don't think
Okay.
that's you, Kathy?
Yeah. Excuse me. You see, there's going to be a public meeting on the Jackson Road corridor plan, as my understanding, hybrid township hall, May 28th. 7 to 8:30. So they've gotten the public input back at this point from that. Yeah, so we're moving forward with that. And the other thing was just that the utilities department have ordered their Ford Lightning, so we're going to have our first electric vehicle in our fleet.
Ah, good.
Which is
Yay.
kind of cool. We did have, I guess I should mention, Shasta at Wave, and I have been trying to have meetings with housing development areas about using the bus more. We had a pretty nice meeting with a lot of interest, but not too many people at the co-housing. And Jan and Chris tagged along and got some feedback on the Jackson corridor plan for that. And then we tried to do one at Scio Farms, and we got one person, but Charlie was very helpful and he was out there, and yeah, we were well prepared, and I have the impression that AAATA is very interested in this idea of trying to get people to ride more, as well as wave. We'll keep trying it for a while and see what happens, but I'm hoping we can get attendance up at these things. So that's where we are at mobility at the moment.
Thank you. Charlie, do you have anything you wanted to talk about with the materials waste and circular economy?
Just a couple quick things. We have had some dialogue regarding a City of Ann Arbor compost program for multifamily. What we've extracted out of that so far is that, well, it's only for Ann Arbor residents, so not like we can piggyback on it. And interestingly, the participants have I don't remember if it was a code or a password or something that they have to use to actually access the bins that they put stuff in, which is interesting thought. I guess that might help in some ways, you know, as far as trying to avoid things going in there that shouldn't. They did have to sign up for it, which would have been similar to what we were proposing here. And we did find it is, was it MI Green, I think I want to say, that is picking it up. So I think we find that encouraging, because if they're coming to the city, within the city, and picking up compost, why wouldn't they come to Scio? So anyway, Bob was going to inquire about that with them, 'cause that would be part of any program that we put together. Another thing that's come up is that Bob actually first brought this up, that I think it was somebody who said at the Planning Commission that mentioned a program in the village of Clinton. They may have become city now, I forget. In fact, I lived in Clinton many, many years ago. And frankly, not the kind of place I really thought would come up with a compost program. But apparently they do, and it sounds like it's quite successful. So we got a little bit of detail on that, and I think that was actually sent out to the task force as a whole. So interesting thing that we want to get some more information on. And then kind of bringing all that maybe full circle is, I believe it was at the last Scio board meeting. I was watching that via Zoom, and we were getting a report from Murphy Harrington, our parks director. And in there, she had mentioned something briefly about wanting to do some kind of composting behind Township Hall. And I thought, well, I think we need to talk. So anyway, I
Good
intend to
idea.
reach out to her too and see what ideas her are. Maybe this will all come together somehow.
And then chickens, bring the
And
chickens home to
chickens,
roost.
yes, I'll contact John about the chickens. Yep. Then we could have chickens out there too and sell eggs.
Right. Resilience County Network meeting. I don't know anything about this. Anybody have any insights into what Jan wrote? Okay, then how about we move to health? Janine, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add there.
No, because like I mentioned, I had spent a few meetings. I've missed a few meetings, and my understanding is Molly is no longer able to be involved, and she was somebody who I thought was gonna take the lead on some of this. So I need to circle back with Jan on where we are and what we're trying to do from a health connection perspective.
Very good.
What can we, just briefly, Janine, what kind of things could we focus on? I mean, that's kind of a personal matter, isn't it?
Actually, I feel like I had some materials. Jan sent me some materials. I spent a little bit of time with Molly reviewing those materials. I put a set of tasks that this group could consider. I thought I presented on some of that at a meeting a few months ago, but maybe I didn't. So I don't have the specifics in my head, Tim, because this is so not what I spend most of my day doing. So I can't answer your question, but I do have somewhere on a piece of paper in a Google Doc what Jan had in mind for this task force and our township sustainability planning.
Well,
maybe-
we got a lot to do as a group here, and maybe, I don't know, if there's something within that health.
I mean, they've already given me a task from this meeting, which is to delve into the environmental concerns that this
Smoke.
our fellow township resident has raised about smoke. So I'm going to take that on as
All right.
part of this work group. And
I think you had a good idea to circle back with Jan and have a chat with her.
sounds good.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is our outreach. And she lists the wanting to make sure that everybody's aware of the Sustainability Fair, October 5th. And our setup starts at 11 and runs till 4 when we take it down. So I don't know if anybody else has any input or suggestions or questions about the fair, but that's out there in October, so we have some time to prepare, but we want to keep it in mind.
Yep.
Yeah, I would like to add a little bit in that. I went and I had a table for the sustainability task force at the Milan Earth Day Fair this past weekend. And just wanted to report a little bit on what they did. Now they have a very nice city park downtown that's a grassy park, and it's large, and it's got a very large pavilion. They had a stage and chairs set up. They had booths, tables set up in the pavilion and also out on the grass. And because it was grassy and large, they had live animals there. They had essentially a petting farm there that had chickens and ducks and that sort of thing, which was kind of nice for kids. They had a bunch of goats that apparently are used for eating, for cropping on areas where there's lots of thistles and things. I mean, it's a company that rents out the goats to eat over damaged land. And I think that there are a couple of places like that in Washington County that rent out goats like that.
Yeah, we've done it here at with our Lock Highland Association of several houses.
And since we're on a parking lot, it may not work. I don't know, but it just seemed like that was an attraction for kids coming in. They had food truck, they had a stage, they had some live music, they had some speakers, presented some little awards and things. Maybe not. It was not like over at the booths, I couldn't really quite hear what was going on all that well, but it just seemed like a nice fair kind of thing with several kinds of things to do and people wandering around. In particular, things that I saw that I thought would be nice to include. Did we have Leslie Science Center at ours?
I don't think so.
Leslie Science Center had kind of a nice little hands-on exhibit with, they had like macroinvertebrates, I think, in the water for water quality. And they also had some composting exhibits and so on. But we might want to get something in like that has some hands-on kind of exhibits. And there was an organization called Veg Michigan. Is anybody familiar with that? They encourage people to get a vegetable forward diet, if not necessarily completely vegetarian or vegan, and just encouraged how this cut the carbon footprint if you're eating more on the vegetable side of things. And they seemed very warm and friendly and encouraging of try one night a week, vegetarian kind of thing. They had a lot of literature. And I thought that might be a good one to include. They have a group in Ann Arbor. And they also had face painting for kids. I'm wondering if we want to consider that kind of thing as well. Because Jan always wants to have something going for kids so families can come. So I just thought I would toss out those ideas.
Yeah,
Talk to Jan about that.
Yeah.
I think there's some good ideas there, Kathy. And I'm wondering, were there many people there from the community? Was it well attended?
I'm gonna guess, I'm not good at guessing the size of crowds, but someone who was there from River Raisin was saying that they would guess probably about 200, 250 people came through, which is better than what we did,
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah, so that was pretty nice. Also, be aware, just not so much for our own purposes as a fair, but there's a small and very dedicated cluster of people that are forming a sustainability commission appointed by their town council or whatever for York Township that were out there at this station next to ours. And that's a very conservative township. They can't do some of the same things that we would because of where they are and everything, but they're very focused particularly on removing invasives, setting aside preserves, planting native plants, and they're getting involved and elected to local office and so on. So there are people that definitely wanted to stay in touch with us and know what we were doing and they love the idea of having the map of the farms on the township website, for example. And yeah, so I think it helps us to make connections with other groups like that.
Yeah, very good.
I need to get off pretty quickly here.
Okay. Anything you wanted to say before you left him?
No, is there much left to go through?
No, just public comments, and then there's a few announcements that are listed here. I don't know that I need to read them, except for just to say that something that's going to be on May 4th is the Ann Arbor Climate Teach-In. I don't know anything about it, but so if somebody wanted to look into that, they should do it quickly because it's in 3 days. Other than that, these dates are here for our reference for when the newsletter has to get out, and that's about it. So just public comments, and we probably already heard what they wanted to say, Tim. Maybe I should just move on to the second public comments. Is there any comment you wanted to make, Rob?
You were just talking, Kathy, about the map for the farms. And just today, I noticed that it has been removed from the green banner at the top of the website page. It was on there for about a month.
Okay.
But there were 3 things on it. The thing about the PFAS meeting and something else and the map. And now it's just about the township being open for the election for May 6th through the weekend, May 4th and 5th. But you guys might want to get the map put back up on the green banner.
Yeah.
I bucked 1 and Tim bucked 2. Can you hear me?
I don't think that's us, or I think Tim just left
I think
us.
it was Tim.
Yeah, got it.
Ah.
So the Ann Arbor Climate Teach-In, I just wanted to note, is actually it's being hosted, I think, at the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Ann Arbor off of Ann Arbor Saline Road. I just dropped the link into the chat for what they're offering. And Jan and some folks from the county, Beth Gibbons, for example, are going to be involved in some of the sessions. It's a pretty good lineup. I'm out of town, unfortunately, but they've got some really great offerings.
Okay, well, that'll go in the minutes, but if anybody is interested, they should look into it soon. Pam, you have a public comment?
Yes. First off, I want to thank all of you for being on this committee. When it began, so many years ago, there were 20, 25, and it's
Right.
really become a very small group, but you guys are doing a lot of really good stuff. And I wanted to say thank you for all you do. And then Rob brought up the PFAS meeting. I had to not listened to the whole thing. It's almost 3 hours, but it is on Scio Community News YouTube channel, easy to access. If you want to listen to the PFAS discussion on Dino Drive, and they did a presentation. They had some technical difficulties, but it's on there, so I wanted to let you guys know. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. You know, and I missed part of it too. I missed Roger Rail's presentation, among other things. Oops. Any other things that anybody wants to bring up before we wrap up the meeting?
Oh, you gotta get approval of minutes, Bob.
Oh, I skipped over that right after public comments.
No, didn't skip
yeah.
it quite yet.
Approval of the minutes. So we have minutes that Kathy prepared for the last meeting. I'm trying to look up the date here. What was that?
Oh my gosh.
Let's see. It was in the, she attached it, so it was the April 3rd.
Third, yeah, third.
Have people any comments, any corrections, any changes they'd like to make to that?
It looked excellent to me.
Otherwise, we could approve it by a voice vote, I think. All in favor of approving it, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I don't hear. Minutes are approved, Kathy. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
And thanks for catching that, Charlie. Okay, I don't know if we have anything formal about ending a meeting, but I move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Support.
Okay, then I'll say the meeting is over. Thanks for everybody attending, and thank you, Pam and Rob, for your comments.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Bob,
Good
for
night.
Yeah,
facilitating. Take care.
you're welcome. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.